Jed Hoyer and the Chicago Cubs have proven that they are ready to win right now. And some people are upset about that. We got another great show. Let's go, Maddie.
You are Locked On Cubs, your daily Chicago Cubs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Cubs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Alongside Sam Olber, I'm Matt Cozy. Please support the show by following on your preferred audio platform. You can watch, subscribe, and leave a comment on YouTube. Thanks so much for making us your first listen. Sam and I are lifelong fans, taking our passion into a discussion with you on all things Cubs. Today's Wednesday episode is presented by FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. The Cubs hiring Craig Counsell is a signal that the Cubs are ready to win and win big. The Cubs on Monday stunned us all by firing David Ross and signing one of the best managers in baseball to a 5-year, $40 million deal to lead the Cubs. President Jed Hoyer spoke at the GM meetings on Tuesday, and we're going to share some of those quotes in a few minutes. But Sam, the Cubs have now made it clear what their intentions are in 2024 and beyond.
Yeah, I think so. And, when I hear you do that little, the Cubs have hired Craig Counsell, I picture the Sunday version of myself listening to that and looking into the future and saying, what in the world just happened? I mean, I'm still coming down from it. And I've had a lot of conversations today via Twitter and the telephone and all this stuff. And a lot of people have been like, Sam, like, it's cool, right? Like, it's cool, but like, is it this big of a deal? And, one point I think I neglected to make on our 6 shows yesterday was that one thing I think is important to mention is that, and we touched on it, but Craig Counsell also knows the Cubs very well, and he knows what they don't do well, and he's been exploiting that for 5 years. So it's like Jed Hoyer went out and just got the guy that has really been poking the holes in this brass for a while now. Formerly with the core and now this new group of guys. And the Cubs held their own this year against the Brewers. It wasn't as egregious as it had been, but it's just, I think we almost undersold what that is. What's going to be like is the David Ross to Craig Counsell thing is huge. Then you add in Craig Counsell leaving the Brewers and coming to you is huge. Do you know what I mean? It's my phone rings. So I think that part of it's really,
we have jobs.
No, yeah, it was a work call. Really, really important. And I think I really think it signals to everybody, and there's already some rhetoric coming out from the GM meetings that the Cubs really mean business right now. And
of course,
we've talked about 2024 ever since this rebuild or retool started, and the proof is starting to go in the pudding. And I think Ty asked a really good question on the live show Monday night about, is there any concern that because they have Craig Counsell, this guy that can really stretch out a roster and stretch out a budget, that they're going to spend less? And I just don't feel that way at all. And I think even Jed's quotes today, which you're going to read, usually GMs don't even touch and talk about big moves and things like that until they happen. So I think everything's trending in a really good direction. I'm excited later on in the show to talk about the people that don't think that this was the right move, because I would like to, share my words with them. But my opening monologue is simple. Everything is rosy red and cubby blue right now. And I couldn't feel better about where things are at heading into the offseason and the moves.
The Cubs were already expected to be competitive in 2024, if not take a next step, if not contend for the NL Central crown, if not contend for even more. They've already been mentioned to be active participants in the trade market, active participants in the free agent market. Now you hire the best manager available, and it's go time. It is go time. Sure, it's easier said than done. Sure, we've hinted at that in the past, but Monday changed everything. Everything. Big, small, in between. Ticket sales, merchandise, the baseball team. Okay, there's so many other categories, but
Crumble
if
cookie.
you don't think that the ticket office
Starbucks.
isn't placing calls to fans, then you're mistaken.
Well, they are, yeah.
If you don't think that the Cubs didn't do more online traffic than ever before, you're mistaken. And if you don't think that they got better on the baseball field, then you're gravely mistaken. And we're going to talk about that later in the show, including from the media in this city. Have your televisions been broken? Now, I'm starting to draft a theory, Sam. I think in my heart of hearts that if the Cubs made the playoffs last month, I have some news for you. This move still would have happened.
I think you might be right.
This still would have happened. This brother, Jed Hoyer, just made one of the biggest power moves that I can ever remember in my fandom. In any sport, much less the Cubs, the team that we love so deeply that we have already done 320 plus shows about.
Yeah.
These last 3 shows, they're the biggest we've done. Is it even close? I'm not talking metrics. I'm talking impact, analyzing moves that matter.
Right.
And the future of this organization has just elevated to a point that we couldn't dream of when we hit the pillow Sunday night.
No.
Right?
No, you're right. No, you're right. And let's just talk a little bit about the Counsell piece of this. And again, we touched on it yesterday, but he wanted to come here.
Crazy.
Like that is a really big piece of this. And, because he easily could have just said, oh, whoa, Hoyer just offered me 5 for 40. Stevie Cohen, Mets, 5 for 40. Can you top it? All right, we'll go 6 for 50. Jed, 6 for 50. He could have done that. He didn't do that. He wanted to come here, and the reports are starting to come out that played a really big role in that. And he had a little bit of a quote today about, I don't even think it's worth reading because it was kind of weird, but the idea of it was big market, big city, ready to win, new resources, new challenge. And he talked about how important it is to get out of your comfort zone. And sometimes change is hard. But ultimately it's going to work out. And I think this is a move that he probably had been thinking about and wants. I think he wanted something new and a challenge. And what better challenge and what better atmosphere to do that than at Wrigley Field with the Chicago Cubs, man. I know it's baseball, and I know it's the manager has a limited impact. But if you've watched our show from July 5th, 2022 up until right now, which we have a lot of people that have done that, you know how important we feel the margins have been, and we know how important we feel the manager. And I'll speak for myself a little bit more than Matt. I really did not feel that we had a manager in place that could win a championship. And not only, it's a threefold thing. We've removed him, we've added the best guy there, and taken that guy from our division rival. It is the grin, the happiness. It's going to last a while. There are a lot of people, I tried to read through some of the comments today, and there's lots of them.
Yeah, right.
And a lot of people are like, oh, it'll be just 2 days before Sam starts whining again, as usual. Fair point. Fair point. Incorrect. I'm not going to be complaining. Now, I'm going to be upset at certain media members, and stay tuned for that in about 4 minutes. But I am not. I am going to be in a really pleasant mood as it pertains to this baseball team for a while, because you said it, man. Power move. I mean, I'd like to reach out to Jed Hoyer.
Well, we might have an opportunity to at some point. So And I think it's bizarre, surreal, wild, whatever adjective you want to use. And I have a lot in my pockets as an English teacher. Not only have we had that manager discussion, Sam, but you, way more than me, have name dropped the manager they just stole.
Many times, yeah.
If Craig Counsell was the manager, then this would happen. Now he's literally the manager.
Now there's nobody to blame.
Well, in terms of dugout decision, dugout tactics, no.
No, it's on the players. It's on Jed. I mean, we know that this guy can win baseball games, and I'd like to have a steak with him.
Couple quotes from Hoyer today at the GM meetings. Quote, "My job is to figure out how to win as many games as we possibly can in the short term and the long term. And there was nothing about this move that didn't feel like it met that criteria," close quote. Hoyer added, quote, "I like our position, and if there are moves, even big moves, that will help us continue that trajectory, we'll definitely do it. But I don't think it's a signal that somehow we're going to have the biggest and boldest offseason. If we do, it's because things lined up for us." And Sam, any instant reaction to that? Because even though we've previewed the piece we're going to talk about next segment, I do think it's important to keep in mind when discussing the dynamics of this was about winning. At the end of the day, the goal is winning. It's not giving this guy a hard time or doing this guy dirty or paying this guy this much. They want to win championships.
Hey, sorry, my air quotes are weird. You know what I mean? All that doing this guy this and giving this guy a hard time. What does that mean?
It's pro sports, like we mentioned yesterday.
It's pro sports. So he came out and said that he needed to do what he needed to do to win. This was an upgrade. And if Craig Counsell became available, wanted to come here, and he didn't make an offer, he would not be doing his job as president of baseball operations. We'll talk about that. As far as the quotes directly, nothing there. Nothing good, nothing bad, nothing. Let him do what he's going to do. He's not going to come out and say he's going to have a big offseason. I even think the fact that he even touched on it was a positive sign. But
right.
Jed Hoyer and Theo Epstein are very good at managerial front office speak. They like to lower the you know what I mean? Like, don't worry about what they say. Worry about what they do come December, come trade season in a couple of weeks. And
the next 6-7 weeks are going to be incredible, I think.
No, I really, before we go to break, I really was concerned about this offseason from my perspective, in the sense that, like, what a tough ending and all those high leverage September episodes. I mean, the blood was rushing to me. I was so excited. Then it's like,
very intense.
We got to go right to, October. And now I feel like I'm there again.
Good.
And it's just makes me really excited.
Straight ahead, we get into what one writer called David Ross's dismissal, quote, cold-blooded. Stay tuned. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the Locked On Podcast Network. Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. It's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use as well. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. And let me tell you this, the McCaskies, Poles, Eberflus, whoever the heck is over there,
Warren,
send Hoyer thank you notes at least.
Right.
The Bears are an abomination. And the Cubs, at least for a week, bailed them out. The Bears are going to line up in orange jerseys Thursday night against the Panthers. Will they win that one? Will they cover? You can do that on the FanDuel app. FanDuel.com/LockedOn. FanDuel, official partner of the Locked On Podcast Network. Patrick Mooney, Cubs reporter for The Athletic, or perhaps that role was changed to columnist, Sam, as him and Sahadev Sharma, who I think I've cited them the most, honestly,
Yeah, you're fans
in
of
our run as the show. But I have to say, this past year, I even thought about publicly tweeting this question. I do wonder if their role as reporter has changed, because Patrick Mooney wrote a column on Tuesday calling Ross's dismissal for Counsell a, quote, cold-blooded move, close quote. Later on in the column, and make no mistake, this is a column, he said that, quote, it will be impossible to airbrush Ross out of franchise history, considering he was so popular that teammates carried him off the field on their shoulders after Game 7 of the 2016 World Series, close quote. So, Sam, before I turn it to you, that paragraph to me encapsulates the confusion I have over this piece.
Yeah.
Because who is airbrushing Ross out? Who?
Well, can I just add?
He is forever in Cubs lore. He was only with the Cubs for 2 years, but this guy hit a home run in Game 7. Only you bringing that up would allow us to forget that. I'm not going to do that as a Cubs fan for as poorly he may have managed the team. That's on you as the writer for making that decision. It just struck me as an odd column on Tuesday.
Well, I think the biggest quote that you haven't mentioned is the talk of culture and family is mostly empty rhetoric. It's not that different here. The manager needs better players. He is insinuating that David Ross got blindsided. He shouldn't have. It has nothing to do with who's managing the team, and they just need to get better. It's a credibility loser for that entire program, The Athletic, Patrick Mooney, because I've always wondered, and we have on this show, and with all due respect, I mean, we're going to get some clapback for what I'm about to say, and that's fine. It always has felt like the media has been really soft on David Ross, the Cubs media, hasn't it? Mm-hmm. Is that a yes?
For the most part.
I think before September, nobody ever asked them hard-hitting questions.
Right.
Everybody always, anytime I ripped them and I ever talked to somebody that had a real position, he's a likable guy. He's a friendly guy. They're probably buddies with him. Look, I'm just saying that struck me the wrong way. Right. That was not to sit here. If I'm going to pay for your material and you're going to come at me and insinuate that this wasn't the best move for the Chicago Cubs organization, we got a problem, right? You're not seeing it. And look, everybody has their own opinions, and that's what makes sports great, right?
Right.
However, there are certain opinions that just aren't acceptable, right? Like, for example, LeBron James, right? Very polarizing guy. You could have your opinion on him. But if you don't think LeBron James is one of the greatest basketball players of all time, your opinion, it doesn't make sense, right? Like, you know what I mean? This is one of those things. You could like David Ross and think he's a great guy, and you could even think that he was being unfairly treated as a manager, and maybe he got the short end of a stick. But to go as far as to insinuate that this isn't a serious upgrade and that the Cubs had to do this, and what other way could they have done it by blindsiding him? I couldn't say, hey, David, it's your job next year unless Counsell got fired or unless Counsell wanted to come here. You can't say that, right? So for anybody to sit here and act like that wasn't, with all due respect, a no-brainer move for the organization is troubling. Troubling.
Yeah, and it's one thing to dish it out like that, in the hot take factory or whatever you want to call it. But I guess pushing out a point that I'm not even seeing seems striking to me. That we would just dismiss Ross's role forever because of the way this went down. His playing career and managerial career are two separate things. Jed Hoyer will tell you that next week at the presser. He already has. He already did it in the statement. He already did today at the GM meetings. What? It's not like he's going to be shunned forever. But
I don't care. Like
right.
David Ross was a backup catcher, and he did a really nice job being a backup catcher and a leader for the Cubs, and he was good at coaching John Lester. As a manager, he had a solid 2020 in a shortened season and then struggled. would he have gotten better? I don't know. But the better options there. My job isn't about David Ross's feelings. And that's not our fans' job. And it's not about David Ross's legacy. It's about winning baseball games.
Exactly.
That's what it's about.
Time to win.
And I don't understand, and I would love to know, and to be fair to Patrick Mooney and whoever else, I didn't read the whole article, but just when he puts, quote, the Cubs way, close quote, reappeared in a cold-blooded move that appeared, David Ross is out of a dream job and made Craig, like, is he insinuating the Cubs way is unethical? Like, what does that mean?
Well, the Cubs way was dating back to the Theo Jet era, summarized.
Right, but the way he's using that is saying it in a negative way.
Well, yeah, that's what he's pushing, sure.
Like they did this with Renteria for Madden. I know Madden had a little bit more. Like, let me ask you this. Here's a great question. Here's a great question that I would love fans to answer, or listeners to answer in the comments, and I'd like to hear you answer right now.
Yeah, it doesn't strike me as cold-blooded, so I'm curious to hear your question.
Oh, this has nothing to do. Was David Ross a better manager than Rick Renteria?
Well, he was here. He had a bigger sample size.
Well, I know, but I'm saying we watched Rick Renteria with a couple years with the Sox, so we had 3 years. Like, I would be curious to hear my Sox fans, friends. If anything, it's about the same. Nobody whined when Renteria got he got more, blindside of the rust. He got 1 year, and Renteria's job that year, 2014, was not to win. The team was not ready to win yet. His job was to develop the young guys. And if you remember in 2014, Starlin Castro and Anthony Rizzo were coming off bad 2013s, and they exploded. They had really good years. And Soler came up. Like, he did his job.
Yeah.
He had it. Like, at the end of 2014, the vibes were very, very good around the Cubs. And even if they didn't have Joe Madden, there would have been expectations to win in 2015 if they still added John Lester. He was the guy that really got an unfair draw. We're just saying Ross got an unfair draw because we're as you said, we're blending two things that mean nothing. Yeah. His playing career, and by the way, he wasn't Michael Jordan or Walter Payton on the field. That would be one thing where it's like, he was like what?
Like iconic.
Yeah,
he wasn't iconic.
He was a nice role player for a team that won the World Series. Like, I wouldn't even say he was a Steve Kerr type of guy, like for the Bulls, like a level under that. What are we doing? Thank you, David Ross, for being a great leader for the 2016 Cubs and being a great personal catcher to John Lester and being just a fun, exciting guy. Thanks for being overall very classy as a manager and representing the team the right way. And good luck in your next endeavor. Let's move on. It's done.
So Renteria did manage again after the Cubs released him for Madden. Will Ross? We get into that next. We're back here on Locked On Cubs. Shout out to the audio peeps in your ears, Apple, Spotify, Sirius XM, and more. Sports Illustrated's Tom Verducci did report late Monday night, David Ross could be a candidate for the Brewers managerial job. But then Tuesday morning, Ken Rosenthal printed a long list of names, and Ross was not in there. Meanwhile, San Diego Union Tribune reported Ross could get an interview for the Padres job, despite the Padres already being far down the road with a few others. And finally, the Athletics Yankees reporter said Ross could fill the bench coach job next to Aaron Boone in the Bronx. I personally think he's going to end up doing a game here and there for ESPN or Apple or something like that, Sam. But it's clear though that if he does want a job in baseball in 24, I do think he's going to get one.
So what are you most excited about with Counsell? For me, it's a combination between the lineups and then just the game-to-game grind. I can't wait to see him defend his players. Look.
Well, he's so smart.
Wherever Ross ends up, great. Did you see, by the way, I sent this to you late last night. You were probably in REM. Wilson Contreras commenting on Instagram about time to David Ross, and then he deleted it.
Yeah, that was tough.
Oh, man. I mean, you want to these guys, the loyalty that some of the fans have to imagine still being a Wilson Contreras fan. I mean, this guy's just, I mean,
Right.
you just sometimes in life, you have to say thanks for the memory and
Right. And
move
you
on.
can. And you can't do that.
That's the beauty of life.
Contreras is going to be on the 2016 statue in a couple of years.
And so should David Ross. They both should be.
Right.
And I could say that and be happy that both of them aren't going to be on my roster in 2024. That's the beauty of life. And what I will say is that Jed Hoyer really is good at separating feelings from business. And I really like that about him. And at some point this week, we're going to have to talk about this 12-year 264 projection on Bellinger because
I think we could do that for Thursday. I want to talk about Ohtani as well.
Shohei,
Nola, Yamamoto.
I think the Cubs. Here's my little preview for Thursday's show. I know this, that some organizations do this. They're going to have a big, how people have like a draft board. Mm-hmm. They're going to have like a free agent / trade board, and they're going to be set. This offseason will not be a success unless one of the following, at least one,
let's hear this.
Are on this team. Ohtani, Soto, Yamamoto, take a step down a notch or two, Pete Alonso. At least one of those four men will be wearing Cubby blue by March 28th at Globe Life, whatever.
I think Globe Life Field. So.
Yeah, I think that's something that they're really going to be.
I don't know,
and I don't care.
That's a good prediction.
I think they feel like they at least have to get one of those boxes checked, kind of like the Swanson Correa, like they had to get that. And then once that's solved, then you supplement it maybe with the Justin Turner, a lower level arm, some relievers, right. and then you have a little meeting with Counsell and you say, hey, the big stuff's done, Craig.
Well, nothing's going to be little with him. This is all big time stuff.
No, but you know what I mean? The big names are done. So now we just need some fillers, and you're the best at finding fillers and getting the most out of them. And Jed's going to say, here, you just tell me, man. You want a little Marcana or something like that? You think that's going to work? You're going to get him? Fine. Brick it.
Right.
Whatever Craig says goes, folks.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I want to end off the show just a little bit talking about the Apple Podcast chart, Sam. And if you're still listening right now, then you could definitely help us out. Let's reach the top 10 together. Obviously, a lot of interest in the Cubs right now. As of this recording, we are 18th in the United States.
11th.
Right? Are we 11th?
Yeah. All the Cubs shows are doing really well right now.
Wow. So we're almost in the top 10, dude. So let me just keep doing this. Okay?
Sorry.
So we're almost in the top 10. Let's keep going, okay? Yeah. All right. So download the show. Send the show to somebody that you know that is a Cubs fan. If you haven't rated the show yet, do that. If you haven't left a 5-star review, do that. But I did want to quickly go over that we already are on some top 10 lists. As of this recording, we are number 6 in the UK, 7 in China, 8 in Germany, and 10 in Belgium. Let's keep moving up some spots on the home front.
Well, I got a lot of fans in Belgium.
That's going to do it for us.
Kevin De Bruyne.
Thank you so much for checking out this edition
and don't forget,
of Locked On Cubs.
And don't shun the YouTube people, because if you put YouTube involved, we'd be way higher. We have the biggest YouTube presence.
Right, I'm talking audio only.
Yeah, audio only.
Yeah, we've been the number 1 Cubs show on YouTube since February.
Yeah, right.
But who's keeping track? You give us 20 to 30 minutes, we'll give you all things.
Apparently
Cubs
the Belgians are.
Along the way. Be sure to hit subscribe on YouTube. If it's your first time here this week,
Paul Pogba's
with us
in Belgium
all off season long. Smash the like button to support us. Shout out to the audio peeps, Apple, Spotify, Sirius XM, and more. He's Sam Olber. I'm Matt Cozy. This is Locked On Cubs.